This is the hospital Santa Anna, tucked in the middle of the picturesque town of Ferrara, Italy. And you're about to see something never shown before on television. It's an experimental treatment to open up the blocked veins that Dr. Paolo Zamboni and his team have been finding in patients with multiple sclerosis. So you decided to move ahead with the treatment now that you had made the diagnosis, right?
Yes. Treatment of a narrowing could be a good way for eliminating iron deposition, so dangerous iron stores in the brain.
And MS patients like this young woman are lining up for his research studies. For years, doctors have used tiny balloons to open up blocked arteries. It's a procedure called angioplasty. Dr. Zamboni decided to try a similar treatment in patients with MS who have blocked veins.
Prendiamo l'iniettore, esatto.
Dr. Robert Galeotti, an interventional radiologist, threads a wire through the key veins that drain blood from the brain. Like most MS patients they've studied, she has 2 blocked jugular veins in her neck. You can see one on this scan.
Look at this section and look at this.
A narrowing.
A narrowing.
Yes.
There's a significant stenosis, because it's certainly more than 50%.
Doctors then send in a small balloon and inflate it. Once the balloon is removed, doctors watch as the blood begins to flow down normally from the brain.
Wow! No more narrowing.
The blood goes faster than before.
Dr. Zamboni's team has performed this surgery on 120 patients so far, some while the patients were having severe MS attacks, with dramatic results.
Sometimes it was unbelievable because they told us, now I have a normal sensation. I have a sensation of my hands. I have a sensation of my legs again. It's fantastic.
The doctors called it the liberation procedure, la liberazione, the Italian word for freedom, as the operation restored normal blood flow from the brain. For the patients, however, this liberation had an even more profound meaning. Here is research video taken by Dr. Zamboni's team. It shows an MS patient before the procedure. His right leg is weak and shakes. This is the same man 2 weeks after a liberation treatment. Another patient who drags his right leg before the treatment. A month and a half after the liberation, he has a steadier gait. These are some of the first patients Dr. Zamboni's team has treated, speaking about their experience for the first time.
È un qualcosa di veramente straordinario, secondo me.
Siamo liberati proprio.
You're liberated.
Sì.
Paolo Ricomini has had MS for 8 years. He had 3 blocked veins that were opened 2 years ago.
Bravo.
Che ho continuato a migliorare. Prima camminavo, adesso cammino molto bene rispetto a prima.
Rossella Rampi was diagnosed in 2003. She had 2 blocked veins that were opened 2 years ago.
In una decina di giorni ho recuperato completamente tutta la forza nella gamba.
In an upcoming study of 65 patients with the most common form of MS, many saw a drop in the number of new brain lesions. And in the nearly 2 years following the surgery, 73% of patients had no more MS attacks.
In the first 2 years after the procedure, if you maintain no narrowing in your neck veins or chest veins, you do not have more attack. And you do not have more active lesion at MRI.
Maybe it's a placebo effect.
Patients can be very enthusiastic the first months, the first day after the liberation procedure. I think this can be certainly taken into account, but after 2 years.
The first neurologist to support Dr. Zamboni's work was Fabrizio Salvi. But you don't think it's a cure?
I think that may be the cure for MS, but I have to be careful.
Most in the medical community haven't yet heard about what's going on in Ferrara, Italy. But among MS patients, Dr. Zamboni's work is the hottest topic on internet chat sites. That's how half a world away in Southern California, the first American patient came to be liberated. Jeff Beal, an Emmy Award-winning music composer, had been withering under the weight of his disease, battling crippling fatigue.
MS is more like this sort of like Chinese water torture, you know? I mean, just kind of like day in, day out, you know, and it's kind of like a slow slope down, you know, you know the end game's different for everybody, but you kind of know that you're trending down, you know.
Part of his MS was fatigue, terrible fatigue, in which he literally could not keep his eyes open.
His wife Joan spent hours scouring the internet for new treatments until the day she found Dr. Zamboni's work.
Literally, I think I screamed that day. And Jeff can tell you, I was running around the house. I was excited because here was finally something that made sense.
They convinced a local surgeon to test Jeff, and guess what? He had 2 blocked jugular veins. And so Jeff became the first person to be treated outside of Italy.
I remember during the procedure, they were sort of opening, when they were first opening up one of the jugular veins, I sort of felt like the lights went on, you know, in a way, you know, in a very dramatic way that I had not experienced really before. I said, this is interesting.
It's only 5 months after his treatment, and Jeff is feeling stronger.
Something's different here. Whether it was short-term or long-term, but there was definitely some sort of perceptible improvement, and that was incredibly encouraging.
Jeff was so excited to feel like himself again. He would get through the day and he'd be, I'm awake. And suddenly he's playing trumpet duets with Henry, and he's helping Henry with his homework, and he's awake. And there's this presence in the house that hasn't been there for 2 years.